Cool. All right. I don't know what I'm going to name this. I think it's probably just going to be the Day Drive series.
Okay.
Yeah? We'll just...
2 dudes, 1 car.
2 dudes, 1 car. So, first thing, Josh, you're in banking. You deal with a lot of small businesses, or businesses of all sizes.
Yes, that is accurate.
What is, outside of banking, because that's why they're there, but what is one of the most common, I guess, pain points that you hear from business owners about just like in general growing their business?
Oh, in growing their business, it's for sure, well, it depends. If it's a craft, like if you're dealing with like a plumber or it's like a trade or something like that, it's typically the fact that they are probably a pretty good plumber but not a good business person. And it's very cumbersome to deal with finances, balancing a checkbook. If they want to get into some marketing, all that stuff typically is a pain point for them. That's why you hire outside people or lean on your banker or whoever to help you out with that kind of stuff. If you're just starting out and it's in an environment where there's a lot of other businesses or a lot of competition, it's just getting started, getting your name out there. Getting your name out there for cheap is a really hard one for most people.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that I've always wondered is like, how do you get your name out there for cheap? Like, anytime you're growing a business, like you have to do most things yourself.
Right.
You know, you can't always just afford to hire people, but like, I've never really figured out like how you get your name out there for cheap. I mean, there's the traditional paths. You know, you can create content, create a following, things like that. But that does take a lot of effort, and that's basically, I mean, that's a full-time job in and of itself, and you're also expected to do that on top of running your business.
Yeah, content creation can be really hard. I mean, like, look at what we're doing right now, how much equipment's involved. It's a lot, but it's not a lot at the same time. Like, you got to have mics, you got to have a camera and all that good stuff. I think that people really get tied up in having all the equipment when really all you need is a cell phone, just flipped around, just talking into it, especially if you're doing something that most people can't do, or if you're doing something that is trending at the time. It's super easy just to turn that camera on and just show what you're doing. And as long as you're consistent and keep doing it, you will grow a following of some kind. But I think when businesses very first start out, like, let's say if you are a painter in the area, you know, you can shoot the content, you can shoot yourself painting, you can shoot yourself, you know, talking about before and after pictures and all that stuff. All that's great, but if you don't know how to aim that content, if you're just throwing it out there, the algorithms now are pretty good, but they're not good enough to pick you up. So you might show up in somebody's feed in Colorado, and we live in St. Louis, so what's that really going to do for you besides get somebody to follow you? You kind of need it to be a little bit more aimed than that. Now,
how would you say that? I mean, you've had a few viral clips in the past. What do you think that your like? What was your recipe for that? For those clips in particular, if you were to analyze your top 3, what would you say that recipe was?
So TikTok has a feature where you can go on there and get your insights, and it'll tell you exactly the videos to make, which is pretty cool. I did not do that. I just made their cooking videos. I've had some views on some cooking videos that I've made, and some good back and forth. There really isn't a recipe right now, I wouldn't say. It's more along the lines of just pushing out content, making it as easy for people to watch as possible. Doing something that you like so that you don't get burnt out very quickly. Like if I was doing TikTok videos or videos in general on, let's say, you know, balancing a checkbook, I wouldn't want to do that every day, but I enjoy cooking. So I just flip the camera on when I cook, and sometimes I talk, sometimes I don't. And I just kind of go from there. So that'd be number 1, is probably just recording yourself doing something that you actually like. Number 2 is like to find your target audience, or an audience that you that performs well when you post a video, and being cognizant of that, like seeing that, oh, okay, so I posted this with no words on the screen, and it was me making a pizza for my 2-year-old. That really went off. So I know that, a couple things on here. So me cooking and talking into the camera, along with maybe something with like being a dad, is going to do pretty well.
Right.
And historically speaking, it has. So just kind of taking the data that you're given from the social media and the videos that you make, that would be number 2, and actually using that data. And number 3, I think, is just being genuine. People know when you're being fake. So if you get on there and everything you do is fake, there's like a real big following right now, a really big push for not being fake and it just being like a day in a life. That's why day in a life videos do so well, because sometimes it's boring, but you're just kind of being yourself.
Right.
So it isn't anything crazy, but you're just kind of being genuine. And I think people really will gravitate towards that, and if they like what you're doing, they'll follow you and getting your content.
Well, that's the thing that's always been crazy, is you see a lot of these videos of these people that it's just them like laying in bed talking, or they just prop their phone up and talk.
Yeah.
And that's insane to me, because they do so well, and I think a lot of people, they feel like they need to really highly produce this type of content for it to do well. And like that content does do well in some way. Like people are drawn to things that look good and sound good. Like if your mic stinks or you're in a loud place and people can barely understand you, like you need to be cognizant of that. But overall, like if the information is good, that's 90% of the battle, if the information's good. And then the other part that I see is just like how the content's presented. Like right now my goal is just to throw some content out there just to have that like shows some sort of value. Like I'm not necessarily trying to go, I would love to go viral, like that would be kick ass, but I'm not trying to go viral. So I'm not like, we could dive deep into, hooks and the type of hooks that you can get at the beginning of your videos, kind of like Mr. Beast style stuff. And I think if you're really trying to push content out, like that eventually has to be the way to go. But as just a small business owner, like you're not just trying to give value, but like you're trying to establish authority. Like there's a million plumbers out there. There's a million home renovators out there. Why should they go with you over these other guys? Like if you can't afford to or don't know how to build the world's best website, like you have to find your leg up in some way. And if you're creating helpful content that people find helpful and are engaging with, then you're going to get more clients over the company that spent $10,000 on a brand new website, because they aren't making content. Like they're showing pictures of their work being done, but at the end of the day, like anybody can fake that nowadays with AI. Like there's not really a differentiator between businesses anymore outside of organically what's there and how they're connecting with their customers.
Yeah, 100%. It's hard. There's that balance there between like, okay, so I'll just keep using a plumber because they're my favorite profession to use in these kind of situations. But like I said, you might be the best plumber in the world, but you're not the best marketer in the world. So how do you make videos about how do you make videos and make it marketing if you're a plumber? I think it seems so tough, but it's really not. You just got to push the content out there, and make sure that the algorithm is feeding back to people that are in your area, and that's how you actually get business out of it. Because your goal as a plumber isn't necessarily to go super viral, because what are you going to do? You can't sell plumbing over across the United States. You can only really do so much.
Yeah.
So I think it's just trying to see the local audience to get to see it as quick as possible and as frequent as possible.
All right, so content. You have your content. You've been posting once a day, if not more, as a business owner, just on the job, randomly. Any thought that pops in your head, you're putting it on your phone, you're putting it out there. Then what? What is the second thing that business owners struggle with the most?
Are you talking about as far as just like business in general, or just marketing?
Anything, but let's go business in general.
Business in general is understanding finance, understanding the business cycle, those two things. So finance in general is hard for some people. They, just like everything else, they try to make it more complicated than it needs to be. It's money going in, money coming out. And the bank itself has products and services to help you alleviate stressors in your life. A majority of them are free, if not cheap, just for you to use. Like, for instance, like we have, like every bank has this, but it's a line of credit for businesses to help with cash flow inside of a month, a quarter, whatever it is, especially if you're in something like a trade where your customer may only pay you half up front or a third up front to get material, but you still got to pay your workers in that time frame until the job's done, and then they pay you after the job's over with. So that's a big stress for a lot of business owners, especially if you're purchasing beforehand, product beforehand. Or restaurants are the same way. Restaurants are, I would say, almost argue worse. But yeah, we have lines of credit where you put it on there, and then as long as you pay it off, there's really no charge to you. Everybody has that, utilizing.
There's not even an interest rate?
No, if you pay it off before the end of the month, there's not an interest rate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, most credit cards are that way too. I shouldn't say most. There's a good majority of them that are that way, which is great. I mean, because then on top of that, you're also getting rewards with that, and it might not be, it's not going to be $1,000 every month that you're getting, but yeah, maybe it's a couple $100, and that's better than nothing. There's also travel rewards and things like that of that nature, and then there's just a big stigma around credit cards, using credit cards in general, especially with an older generation. They feel like you use a credit card if you don't have the money to buy the thing, and that's just not true anymore. They're safer. Credit cards are safer than debit cards by a long shot. If somebody gets a hold of your debit card, they're getting a hold of your money inside of your checking account. If they get a hold of your credit card, they're technically getting a hold of the bank's money. So there's a couple of those things there.
I've always thought of it this way: is when it's your money, there's less of an urgency to get it back. Mm-hmm. When it's the bank's money, kind of all hands on deck. And
right.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I just feel like if I'm chasing after my own money, there's going to be more of an urgency on me. So why should I expect, an entity to act any different?
Yeah.
Which is why, I use credit cards for everything.
Yeah, behind the curtain a little bit on that too. Some of it is actually the processes of how you do a fraud claim, because once you sign off on it and say that it wasn't you, the bank has to handle everything internally, and our internal processes are going to be faster than trying to get the customer to sign a piece of paper and then bring the piece of paper back in, and you get busy, and it just takes longer for that to happen. When you're in the bank, the person that is signing the forms is usually the person doing the process, so it's quick and fast. But yeah, I would say that's usually something that businesses struggle with, and your banker, especially a business banker, is going to be more tenured at your normal retail bank, and they're going to know a lot more than just your average, retail banker when you walk in there. So they should be able to help you out a lot more than, they should be able to help you out when you have those types of questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think finance is, they always say cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. If you don't have cash flow, you aren't living. Mm-hmm. Like if you aren't bleeding, you aren't living. And I think that's the main thing to take away from that. Because like there's a lot of businesses out there that are just like, this is how much money I made, and this is what I need to spend. And then I feel like there's a lot of business owners out there that go in this loop of really not paying themselves over a long period of time, probably longer than they really have to, mainly because they aren't really sure if they can even afford to.
Right.
And I think one of the most fun parts of business outside, like if you love what you do, there's a lot of fun in the fact of actually making money on it. Right. And so if you aren't making any money on it, then it's really a lot of work for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of work.
It's a very tricky situation, because you think about it, like, okay, you start a business, you got all this money up front, you got to pay out. It works out. You do some jobs, you have some money coming in, you get this money at the end of the month, and what do you do with it? Do I pay myself? I've already paid all my employees. Do I just give the money to myself? Do I reinvest it in the business? Maybe buy some equipment that'll get me more jobs? Do I spend it on marketing? Do I, what do I do with this money? Do I just give it, Do we go on a vacation with my family because we haven't gone on one in a while? There's a lot of questions. Do I invest it? You know, like, what do I do with all this? Do I invest it in the market? Do I invest it on, you know, my future? Whatever it is, like, even if you win, you have a bunch of questions at the end of the month or the quarter where you got to answer yourself, and it's that's what I said. You gotta find a good network of individuals to be able to lean on, especially if you're a business owner, to answer these questions with you, for you, you know, talk through with you, that type of stuff. So it's a lot to do with your network as well.
Yeah, for a lot of businesses, obviously financial trouble within a business of like not knowing how to handle the finances, not less about cash flow, but more of just not knowing how to handle them, is a good problem to have. So how do we get that problem? How, like, for a direct to consumer business, not B2B, because that's a kind of different beast altogether, but a direct to consumer business, how do you find business? Yeah. I think that's always the most difficult thing. Like, if you're selling a product, okay, should I run ads? Like, that's how I draw people in. You see a lot of these Facebook shops, you know, impulse buys, pens, T-shirts, running ads. Like, how are you finding customers?
Well, I'll tell you what works on me, and I'll tell you what works on most people, and that's, like you just said, those impulse buys are huge. Like, I bought something the other day. It was a head cover for a driver. It was quick. It was easy. It wasn't too overpriced, and I was able to purchase it right away. It was in like that nice little like $20 to $25 range, to where most people feel comfortable just pressing a button and spending money on that.
Right.
You know, it'll be at my house in a couple of days. I think that's part of it too. We get instant gratification where it'll be at your house pretty quick. It was cheap. It looked good, and you're able to get it, you know, as quick as possible. So where can you put your product where most people have their eyes? And most people have their eyes in social media right now. Definitely on their phone, but usually on social media. What avenues can you use there? How can you get your stuff on their shop? And how can you make it as easy as possible for people to buy? I think that's a big step.
So what about for higher priced items? So for higher priced items, it's not an impulse purchase, but you need eyes on it.
Yep.
Like, in your opinion, I'll give kind of my thoughts.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts on what will get you to stretch for an item that you might be like, I don't know if I want to spend the money, but I really want this item? Like, what aspects of that item or brand gets you to commit?
Price obviously is always going to be a big one for most people. If you have any fluctuation in your price being, you know, somewhat reasonable, it doesn't always have to be the cheapest. And I think that's a big misconception people when they buy. It's like, I'll sell more if it's cheaper. That's not necessarily the case. You have to tell your story and sell your brand and make sure that the people realize when they buy this thing, it's going to be what you say it's going to be, and it's going to show up on time and all of that stuff. So how do you tell that story? Well, it goes back to social media. It goes back to having looking like a legitimate business, so a decent website if people are buying from your website. So if you're dealing with a price range, it's going to be outside of something you would buy, you know, on Instagram or TikTok Shop, or even like, let's say, like Amazon. If it's something that's like way more expensive, like in the thousands of dollars, you know, you want a website for the people to go to, or the website actually makes sense. And it looks professional, and, you know, there's not like misspelled words right when you open the page, and it's not clunky and stuff like that. I think that's going to lean somewhat into right what you're going to say. So that would be my input. You're obviously way more versed in this than I am. So
the things for me, and I see this across a lot of different industries, is people have to relate to the brand in some way. So not just does this brand in the background hold the same values that I have, which that does filter into purchasing decisions, but more of, has this brand shown me something to where I'm now picturing myself with this item, or I'm picturing myself with this brand in some way. Like, is this brand a lifestyle brand? Like, you know, Starbucks, for example, Starbucks did a great thing. Starbucks doesn't have the best coffee at all.
Mhm.
Like we all know that their coffee, just black coffee, isn't that big of a deal. You can get a latte any place, and it'll
Right.
probably be better 50% of places.
Mhm.
But the difference is that Starbucks did a thing where they made, kind of like the iPhone, where they made the logo, they made the cup kind of a status symbol, where if you had a Starbucks cup, you were part of this community of people who, people who are grinding, people who are treating themselves, people who are doing this thing. Like, you think of Starbucks if that is kind of your treat of choice, or that's, what your daily routine is. You don't think of Dunkin' Donuts. You don't think of going to Panera or St. Louis Bread Company, for the people who get mad about that. You don't think of that stuff. You think of Starbucks. Same with an iPhone. I mean, iPhone did an amazing thing with branding. Is they created a lifestyle, a lifestyle so much so that if you don't have an iPhone, you're a loser. Like,
You're less
people
than verified.
Yeah, people are bullying people without iPhones to get them to get
Right.
iPhones, and we see this all the time. I have several friends that, after years of having an Android, they all of a sudden just converted to an iPhone.
It's just better for the group chat. Is what
Yeah,
it
it
is.
is better for the group chat,
Yeah.
and they purposely do stuff like that. So
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to more luxury items, like items that you're spending into the thousands on, like, I think I have to feel that luxury.
Mhm.
Like, there's some furniture brands that I work with, and one brand is, you'll buy a handcrafted, custom-made, real wood table, and you might spend anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 on it. That's a lot. That's a big commitment. And so, if no one is going to buy that table if they feel like they're buying an IKEA item. And so your advertising has to be different than IKEA. I can't just show the item. People aren't purchasing these items because of practicality. You can find a million other brands, and I think brands that even call this out are really smart. You could go to a million of our competitors and buy something because of practicality. But with us, you are buying quality, you're buying a lifestyle, and in some cases even, there's certain brands where I don't know if I necessarily like their product as much as others, but I know that if I ever have an issue, they're going to be right there and they're going to help me out. So you're also buying the customer service, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I see on D2C.
I think car companies do this very well. Like, they have totally hedged their bets on, if you drive a truck, it's like a masculine feel, like you're driving you look at the truck commercials, and the truck commercials aren't somebody getting groceries. It's some dude hauling lumber, or driving through off road, or he's
Right.
towing a boat, or she's towing a boat, or somebody to towing a trailer. It's always something like that. And then you move over to a luxury sports brand like a BMW, which is right in front of us. And they're going to be through cityscape, or they're going to be on the countryside going real fast, hugging corners, stuff like that. But the person driving the car in the commercial isn't going to be getting out in, rugged clothes. They're usually going to be getting out in a suit, or, a nice dress, or
Right.
polo, or because it goes with the target audience. Like, somebody that drives a BMW they're going to drive BMWs. They're going to go out and look at it. They're probably going to be a professional. They're going to be, probably a little bit more well off than most, things like that.
You aren't buying it for the practicality of having a car. You're buying it to make a statement.
Yeah,
It's a statement piece.
Yeah, and you could also argue that it's not very practical. They are very expensive to maintain and keep up.
Right.
They're going to be way more expensive than let's say if you were to get Chevy Malibu or something that was American made, that's a little bit easier to maintain. You're buying it because it's like a status symbol. It's like, I drive a BMW.
Right.
So, whatever. Same thing with watches. Watches are the same way. I know you're really into watches, but you got a Rolex on, that's like a status symbol thing. People notice that. They're like, oh, he's got a Rolex on, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's a status symbol thing, and that's one way you can go about it for sure, especially if you're dealing in business to consumer products like that.
Yeah, and so there's a brand that comes to mind specifically. It was a helicopter and private jet brand out of New York. And I worked on their account running advertising, and they were kind of like, they wanted to be like the Uber for helicopters and private jets. So you'd go to the airport, you need to get to certain places, or they'd pick you up. You know, they also have like a car service that picks you up where you need to go. They, you know, get you on your plane and everything. So we tested 2 different ads with them. We tested an ad that showed the entire plane from the outside, and then we tested the ad that showed the plane from the inside. And if you had to guess, which one did better?
The one from the inside?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which seems counterintuitive, because you're trying to show, when you see a plane from the outside, like, you're like, hey, this is your private jet, and you're like walking up to the private jet and you're on the tarmac, like,
this is what everybody else is going to see, you think.
Right.
Yeah.
But the real value is the luxury. If you are getting a private jet, there's a lot of practical reasons to get private jets, but the only people that are getting private jets for practical reasons are the people who can afford to get a private jet for practical reasons. You know, like it almost works opposite when the higher in luxury and the higher priced items you go,
right,
where the people who are doing it for practicality can afford to do it for practicality, and the people who aren't doing it for practicality, they're splurging a little bit. And so I think if you want more people to splurge on your luxury item, you have to show them the lifestyle that the luxury item is going to bring them, which is why, you know, a video of service within the private jet, or, you know, how comfortable it is, or sitting there with your friends and everything, like that is going to be a game changer, because everybody knows what a plane looks like. I can look up a picture of a plane whenever I want, but not a lot of people know what the inside of a private jet looks like, and not a lot of people know the inside of the specific private jet that you want to fly looks like.
Now you're getting into that's more of like that's a sales mindset. Like you're putting your customer in, you're making your customer imagine themselves in the product or with the service or whatever it is. Like that's a huge sales tactic. Like you're basically, it's no different. Like if you were selling that jet to them, it's, you know, when you're talking to them, like, how would you use this jet is a good question to ask. Like, what are you using this jet for is always a good question to ask. Or what are you using this car for? Or what are you using, how are you going to use these golf clubs, or whatever it is. You automatically start thinking of yourself using that item when you start telling the salesperson that.
Right.
And that automatically gets you on their side quicker than anything else.
Well, that's how they sell private jets. Yeah. Like if you ever watched a video, or, you know, someone who is in that business sell them, that's exactly how they sell them. They sit there and they go, you know, how far are you wanting to fly? Like, how far are you wanting to fly nonstop? Okay, this will get you here. Now, if you fly to Dubai all the time, here, based on this jet, here are the places that you're going to have to stop to refuel. Okay, how much luggage do you carry with you? Right. You know, I saw one video, it's like, the one thing nobody ever asks, nobody takes into consideration, is how much luggage they're going to bring, because that makes a huge difference, because these are smaller aircrafts. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting there analyzing and figuring out the amount of luggage to the number of bags that I'm going to bring with you, like, I'm figuring out with you on how to sell me a jet. You know what I mean? Like, we're working on this together, and you already got the person hooked. Yeah. And that brings me to the B2B side. The B2B side, I just wanted to briefly touch on. Let me start with a question. What is the most convincing sales tactic you have ever had forced upon you?
Forced upon me? That's a good question. So it's definitely, I'm a very practical person. So if you preach practicality to me, that's always going to work. Like, you need this because it's going to save you X amount of time in certain situations, and it's going to make your life easier because of this. Like, as long as I start checking off those boxes, like, oh, it's going to make the process go faster, it's going to make it easier for me, and I'm going to save time. If I can check off those 3 things and it's within my budget, or even if it's like slightly without my budget or outside of my budget, I will push for it. And most people are that way, especially business owners. As long as you can show them that it's quicker, faster, easier, or sorry, quicker, faster, easier. It's quicker, cheaper, faster, quicker, cheaper, easier. They will almost always go with it. But yeah, that's my answer.
I think So I'm the type of person that clicks on every single ad that I see. Whether it's on my phone or on the computer, I click on most ads because I want to see the sales process. I want to see more like of what they're doing, because maybe I can apply it to my own. Some of the most compelling ones that I've gotten, I've had personalized videos made for me, like with a Loom video, where you see the person's face at the bottom and they say, "Hey Michael, how's it going? Here's blah blah blah," and they explain the process, or they explain what they're trying to sell me. I think that's been super effective. So kind of like a customized one-for-one strategy, which takes some time, but I think it works. The second thing that I've seen is when I'm clicking on a lead page and I'm inputting my information, what is that process after the fact? Like, what amount of time are they spending showing me? Like, are they just saying like, "Hey, we have all the answers, just trust us"? Or are they actually showing me that they have the answers? Like, how established is this business? Does this business have an established social media page? Does the person who reached out to me have an established social media page? One of the biggest red flags that I've ever seen is when you're in the lead funnel for a particular service-based company, and the business page is just all about the business. And then the person who reached out to you, which is usually like an owner or a high-level whatever, their page is all about the business and all about selling their product. And that's a huge red flag for me, because that tells me like, oh, you're just doing this for the business. Like, this might not even work.
Yeah.
But like, can I find you other places? Does your personal profile have stuff just about your life? Can I find the people that you work with? Like, do you have a LinkedIn? Do you have an Instagram? Can I see more about you other than the fact that you own this product and you're trying to sell it to me? That's some of the most compelling, and it's not even really in the sales pitch. Like, that's just in general. Yeah. Like, when you created your lead funnel, did you provide value to me in any way? Like, one thing that I've learned recently is, offering something for free. And it doesn't have to be like offering the thing that you would typically be paying for free, but hours are paid. Like, you make money based on time that you work a lot of times, and are you providing me free hours from you? Like, one I went into, and there was they called it a 7-day free trial. And they basically gave me consulting hours where they sat on the phone with me, we shared a Google Doc, and they just asked me questions about the business, and we just talked it out, and we talked about like value adds, we talked about everything. And that was super valuable. And that also kept me in the pipeline, because I'm like, I'm actually getting value out of this. And if it makes sense, like, I think that's the other thing, is that if what they're saying makes sense to you, that's the biggest selling point at all. Like, have I come to the conclusion that you're coming to on my own? Well, that's an easy sale right there, because now we're on the same page.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what you just talked about was trust. So you wanted to see the LinkedIn profile or the Instagram profile where it wasn't just them reselling the product. It was their life, or maybe just like them not trying to sell the product, maybe just them talking at a conference or something like that.
Yeah, or even just like hanging out with your girlfriend or boyfriend or something like that. Like, that goes a long way with someone like me.
Exactly.
There's a lot of scammers out there.
Well, it makes the person feel not like a scammer, not like you're trying to be conned. So, and then you talking to them on the phone or the consultation, Zoom, whatever meeting, and them being able to actually talk intelligently on the topic that they're trying to help you with. That's all trust. That's all trust. That's all sales without being sales. I mean, they move into more of it's more of a consultant at that point rather than a salesperson. And I think, in my personal opinion, and I've been in sales for forever, that is truly where you do the best sales, is when you move yourself out of that sales category into like more of a consultant. I'm not here to sell you everything that we have. I'm here to try to make you be successful. And I truly believe that. And because I truly believe that, you naturally will be able to understand that when I speak to you about what I'm trying to get you to sign up for. Because I'm not trying to get you to sign up for anything just because to get you to sign up for anything. I'm trying to get you to sign up for it because I believe in my best interest that it'll help you, And then also, I've done this before. I've helped people in your situation. I've helped them, and it's worked. So now I'm sharing that information with you that it's worked, and I know that it'll work. So I have all of this conviction that I'm showing you, and that usually ends up with some type of sale that you don't really feel crummy about because you're really just trying to help the person.
Well, right. I think people can sniff a sale, and I think one of the biggest things that, like, one of the bigger sales tactics that's talked about is, you know, when you can tell that someone's sniffing a sale, and you're telling that, you know, they might, the objections coming about potentially hopping on a new car, potentially doing business, and, you know, the person would say something like, you know, I'm not sure, like, I need this, I might need this product, or I'm not sure if I need this product or this service or whatever. And you sitting there going, well, hold on. I'm not sure if we can even help you yet.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, yes, if it fits, I would love to sell you this product because I think it's going to benefit you. And then, like, let's be honest, like, I'm getting paid to do this, so it's good for me too. Right. So we said the quiet part out loud. But also, like, I'm not sure if this is even a good fit because I got a reputation to uphold. If this doesn't work, then that looks bad on me.
Yeah.
And we, like, you know, when you're a small business, I'm a small business. I have just as much at stake in the success of this as you do. Because if it fails for you, well, you wasted valuable capital that you could have spent towards other things. Or, you know what, you're a business owner, take a break, go on a vacation. But you spent vacation money on me. You spent break time on me. You took time away from your family so that you could hire me.
Right.
And I need this to work because I'm also trying to spend time with my family. I'm also trying to make a living. And if my reputation's hurt because I don't do good by you, well then, shoot, we're both out of luck here. So we have just as much at stake as you do in this situation. And I think that goes a long way because it tells them that we're in this together. I know that's kind of a cliche thing that we've heard over the past few years. We're all in this together, but we really are. It's a partnership, and whether they're an experienced business owner or not, people can sniff a salesperson. They can sniff a desperate salesperson. And that, nothing turns me off more than listening to a pitch, giving one objection or one, like, I don't think I'm going to do this, and then the salesperson getting kind of annoyed by it.
Yeah, or going, oh, okay, so you said you didn't like it because of this. Like, can you explain to me a little more deeper? Like the old school, like, sales tactics, you can just see them from a mile away, and you're like, oh god. Yeah, it just turns you off right away, and it makes you not want to do business.
Well, it also differentiates the people who actually want to help you versus the people who don't. So one thing that I do, and if anybody looks me up that is trying to sell me something and you hear this, understand I will do this too. One thing that I do, especially if I'm starting to be sold, if I'm like, you know what, I kind of like what you're saying, I'll actually throw in an objection purposely. Like, you've already sold me. I know I'm going to buy this product, but now I'm testing you. So I'm going to say, I don't think this is a good fit. And I want to see how you react to that. I want to see how you react to me basically shutting down the process. And if you sit there and react with empathy, then I'm signing with you tomorrow. If you sit there and don't react that way, or act annoyed, or act, well, you don't know what's good for you type of attitude, well, then I probably won't go with you, even though you already sold me.
Yeah, even though it already made sense for me. I just want to work with you.
I'll find someone else, because now I know I want this product. Yeah. Now I know I need this product even more, and
You sold it for somebody else.
Yeah, you sold it for somebody else.
Yeah.
One last example of that is, I've been on several B2B sales calls where people will kind of get annoyed. Like, I asked a company, like, hey, I'm not really comfortable with how this is set up. Like, I would love to see a contract. I'd love to see something like this. And they got really weird about that, which was a little bit of a red flag. But specifically the other day, I was in the market for a watch. I walk into this store, chain place, and I see a watch that I like, and I was about to buy it from them. And I'm like, working out the paperwork and all that type stuff. And I noticed that the date and time, like the time was out of sync with the date. So for example, it was a citizen day date, so it'd show the day and show the date, and the day would transfer over at like 3:00 or 4:30, and sometimes like it wouldn't even be a consistent, like it would just transfer over at different times, and it wasn't even 24. Yeah, it was just off, and I was like, wait, hold on, how do you fix this? And the person was like, well, we don't have people in house, but this company has really good YouTube tutorials on how to like work with their watches. I was like, listen, I'm not trying to buy a project. I'm trying to buy a watch that I'm gonna wear. Like, unless you're giving me 50% off, like I'll take a risk on it, but not like this. Like this, it's not a cheap watch. And so the person then like got really annoyed, and and I was like, I'm not gonna buy this watch if you guys can't fix it like right now. Like I'm not gonna buy a broken watch.
Right.
And they got really annoyed, and it's like, okay, now I know I will never come here for business ever again.
Right.
Because of that. And like then I went to this other company, and I got this watch, and they were awesome. And they just like, if I had any questions, if I had anything, if I was like unsure about the process, they just sat there and they go, well, you know, it might not, we want to make sure it's the right one for you. And they were like super empathetic towards my concerns, towards spending money on a watch. And that's the biggest thing.
People just have more information now walking into a sale than they've ever had too. And I think that has changed the way we have to sell. And this might be a better conversation for a different time, because it's going to take me a little bit to talk about it. But in general, like before, when you went to go buy a car, for instance, which is, you know, one of the bigger purchases you're going to make in your life, if it's the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, whatever, you know a little bit about the car, but you don't really know too much.
Right.
To where now, like if you and I were to buckle up, go down the street and go look at a car, and we wanted to go look at a, you know, Chevy Silverado, you know, 1500, let's say a 2022, I can look it up on my phone and I can tell you everything about every model, every trim package, every color, everything that goes wrong with the car, everything people liked about the car in about 20 minutes.
And also I could probably quickly look up on even like TikTok or Instagram, like this is how readily available. So as an extreme example, I could go on TikTok right now and look up people purchasing this exact car and see how much they paid for it.
We're not even talking about price. Yeah, we're not even talking about price yet. Like you could like literally just get a list of cars, a list of trucks that are the exact thing you're looking for, and you go like, oh well, they have it at 35.
Well, we've learned so much. Like you go into a car and you realize that they charge you extra for these extra things that they add onto the car, and it's like, I'm not, and they aren't even added yet. They do it after you purchase it. They add in these things. Like I'm not. You could add it if you want, but I'm not paying for that.
Exactly, and that goes with every single thing for the most part that people buy. Like any bigger ticket item, you better believe the person that's walking up to you knows a lot about it before you even start talking to them.
Right.
So they're not necessarily they're buying the product, yes, but then they're also buying your service after the fact, your service during. Right. Any kind of questions that they may have that weren't able to answer online, any kind of the harder, weirder questions maybe that they have. They're leaning on you to do that. Now, if they don't feel comfortable doing business with you, they can just go buy it somewhere else.
Right.
And it's like that more than ever, because old school sales tactics were hard. Like they were like, it was all cheesy. It was all trying to get them to say yes. And it was whatever you could do. Don't let them leave, all that good stuff. And that just doesn't work anymore.
No.
Because they could be sitting at a desk with you trying to buy a car, and they're just totally turned off by you, and they're like, okay, whatever, we're not buying a car from this guy. And they could go on Carvana and buy a car while they're sitting there with you.
Right. People don't care, and I think that's the biggest thing is it's whether good or bad. We've lost in society a little bit of the cordialness of what would actually force someone into a sale. Like, oh man, I feel so bad because I wasted all their time, or they did this. I feel like I need to say yes, and I feel like I need to move forward with something. And you feel pressured. Then that pressure is more of not wanting to deal with the fallout that happens if you tell them no, or if they get annoyed by you. Like people don't want confrontation, and so you'll get sales because of the lack of confrontation. Even now, you're still going to get sales because people don't want confrontation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, most people don't care, and most people, I don't know if anybody's cold called ever in their life, but people don't give a crap what you think about them if they don't want to talk to you.
That might be something good to talk about next time we do one of these too, is like just the difference between like an in-person sale and an over-the-phone sale. Your over-the-phone sales are going to hang up on you, maybe call you a name, then hang up on you. Your in-person sales, they'll hang with you for a minute and never had any kind of inkling of buying from you. They just don't want to be,
They don't want
a
to be
jerk.
rude. And they want to let you down easy over email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. They don't want to tell you no up front, which we would appreciate if you were just to tell us like, hey, I'm not interested. I'm like, okay, perfect, yeah, cool. Have a good day.
I know. I mean, we've gotten yeses before
Mm-hmm.
on certain things where the person says yes. Okay, I'm going to send over a contract. Is that okay? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. You send over the contract. They don't sign. Wait a few days. They don't sign. And all of a sudden they go, this is just more than I can afford right now. It's like, I told you were so interested. I priced it out for you on the phone.
We've been talking price for 3 days, and it was okay. Yeah.
And you said okay, and then all of a sudden it came to commitment time, and you said no.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the words of Kevin Hart, scared money don't make money.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, not ready to do business.
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying. So, yeah, cool.
Cool. This is cool.
This is cool. Yeah, this was fun. Yeah, definitely. Took a little road trip.
Yeah.
It was fun. What are we calling this?
Day drive. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll call it like business and wheels. I don't know. I've been spending too long in Excel sheets today.
Dude, yeah, there you go. Yeah, whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be on a tag somewhere in this video, and you guys don't know.
Yeah.
And we won't yet, but we'll know next time.
But it'll be on the Madman Marketing page, YouTube page.
Sweet.
And all that type of stuff.
Awesome.
Along with our series of site audits that you could check out, and how when we are potentially, how Madman Marketing, how when we potentially want to work with a client, the type of thing that we do. We do a custom site audit, first impression, never seen the website before, and we kind of take you through that entire thought process. They're a little more unhinged and a little less planned because we have no idea what we're walking into. So you can see that whole series of videos as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Just kind of how we think over here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think the site audits are really cool. I've seen you do a couple of those live, and they're super informational. Like, you learn so much, and there's so much that goes on in the background people don't know.
Right.
They just think if you have a site up, it's up and you're good and everybody can see it and Google loves you and all that good stuff, and it just doesn't. So yeah, I'm excited for that. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah. So
definitely.
peace.
See ya.